Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca and welcome back to my bookish travels. Today I am going to be wrapping up all of the things from the month of March and I hope you guys enjoy. Feel free to share in the comments down below if anything that I have read or done this month is something that you have either read or watched or listened to, and if not, maybe you'll have some new recommendations. So starting off, as always, let's get into the books I read. So the first one I want to discuss is Before Tomorrowland. This is actually a prequel to the film Tomorrowland, at least that's how they had it marketed, and it takes place in modern times, kind of. It takes place in the 1930s, I believe, I remember correctly, and we are following a couple different points of view. This is sci-fi, and there is so much going on. It's very well written, and honestly has made me want to pick up more sci-fi. I've come to realize that obviously I have sci-fi on my shelf, but I don't read it as much as I should, and I really, really love it. For me, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I was blown away by this story, and honestly would love to see this adapted into an actual TV show or even a short, one season drama or even a movie, but I feel like it's got to be done right and they can't really skip over a lot of the details because the book, although sometimes it feels like there's a lot of details in it, they all interconnect so beautifully. It is really well done and definitely made me feel all the feels when I read this. The next one I wanted to mention is Jagged Thorns. I received an ARC of this and I read it and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this story. It pulled me in. It had me fully immersed in wanting to know what this mystery was. And I really liked the forced proximity between our two kind of main characters of the story. I'm really intrigued to see where the author is going to go in this trilogy. She has only published the first one thus far. My mind is blown with how she kind of took the story. I didn't really know the direction we were going in from the start. She definitely shocked me quite a few times with this story. It is a darker gothic tale and I cannot wait to read more of this. I'm so excited to actually go back into the world, and honestly I think I'm going to end up having to reread this story because not only is the cover really amazing, but also the story itself has so many different layers that I feel like I need to read it again and start mapping it for myself for when I go to read the next one in the series whenever that comes out. Next, I have The Viscount Who Loved Me. This, just to begin, was a 5 out of 5 star for me as well. I loved getting to see Anthony and Kate's story come to life. I really loved the layers to this one as well. Again, the books that I'm going to share this month that I read were just all ones that blew it out of the water. I was really amazed by the story, and there was just so many different elements to them that I couldn't give it anything less. For this one in particular, what I really loved is that we did have the dual point of view between Anthony and Kate, and I really appreciated getting to see some of his thoughts in this story. And between the two of them, it just became this really beautiful romance. I did not read the second epilogue because I've only read the first 2 books thus far, but I will say that the first epilogue was so cute and the way it began just made me chuckle so loud and so long because honestly, I love getting to see how Anthony's character really starts to bloom and grow. And I know that sounds like something we would say with a feminine character, but we can say it for men as well. His character truly does blossom in this story, and it was such a privilege getting to read it. Next, I have The Inn on Harmony Island. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars for. It's the first one in the Sweet Tea and Southern Gentleman series. So good. Again, we have multiple points of view. Obviously, this month I was really liking the multiple points of view stories, and for this one, I could not put it down. It was one that I got through so quickly. It was one that made me instantly want to buy the next one in the series, and I must know how the story goes on. I'm very intrigued to find out, has anyone else read this series or this book, because I've heard nothing else from anyone else about it, and I found it just randomly and I loved getting to go into the story. I love seeing that there's some redemption taking place, and I'm excited to see the direction that the author goes with this story. I just could not be happier. The next one is an Audible original. It's called The Summer of '85, and it's actually primarily narrated by Kevin Hart, which would make you think that this is a comedy, which from the cover and everything I thought it was. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It's actually about the summer of '85 in the city of Philadelphia, where 2 very massive events took place, which one of them I actually was not aware of. The first is there's an actual bombing that takes place in a residential village area building, and multiple people die, including children. The other is there is a massive live performance by multiple performers, and it's to raise money and awareness for Ethiopia. There's a number of layers going on with this story, and I feel like they put together a very educational audiobook. It's just shy of 5 hours, I believe, and I honestly did not want to stop listening. As I said, this was something I wasn't aware of, and I feel like most people probably aren't, unless they were in that affected area, or their parents maybe brought it up or something. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak for others, but I do know for myself, I wasn't aware of the bombing that occurred, and I found that this took a very neutral point of view in presenting the situation and presenting it as an overall, and didn't judge one over the other, and just kind of presented the facts and the situation. For myself, this was a very sad story to listen to because of the reality of the situation, but I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to take advantage of listening to this and being exposed and educated on something that took place before I existed on planet Earth, and can also wonder why more wasn't done and why there was so much left unaccounted for, I guess I could say, for those that were responsible for decisions. And finally, I want to mention The Secret History of Star Wars. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. This one was over 20 hours of an audiobook. It was a long haul, but I am so glad that I listened to it. I don't know if I would want to sit down and read it myself, but I will say that this Audible edition, the narrator does an amazing job switching voices into George Lucas, Samuel L. Jackson. He even does Mark Hamill's voice, and he does Harrison Ford. So when he's actually talking about other directors or things like that, he does actually change his tone with how he speaks, which makes him sound more like that person that he is actually phrasing in that sentence, which made it very immersive for me, and I much preferred. I found this such an interesting listen because I grew up watching Star Wars. My dad instilled that love in my siblings and I. It was a favorite of his, and I loved getting to hear stories of when he went to the theater and watched the original. It just was a very nostalgic listen for me, and I wish that my dad was here and I could have that discussion with him since I finished it, because I feel like he and I could talk so much more about it. I feel like I have so much that I want to dish on that I heard for some of the history, and getting to benefit from someone else doing a lot of this research that I myself probably didn't want to take the time to research, but now know. I feel very blessed in that fact, because I myself would probably not have gone to the lengths that this person has gone to write this story, and I'm very intrigued to see if anyone else has. If you guys are interested in more of the behind the scenes of Star Wars and kind of those extra layers of the story of how each Star Wars film came about, then I would highly recommend go and check out this book. It was very, very well done, and I have nothing but praise to say. Moving on to the podcast, I have 2 new ones that I listened to this past month. The first one I listened to with my mom. It's called Do You Know Mordecai? If you guys like true crime and you're not necessarily wanting to delve into more of the murder mystery kind, then maybe you should check this out. It's about a guy named Mordecai who is not who he seems to be. That's all I'm going to say. The second one that I ended up finding, they are actually a newer podcast. It's called My Sister's TBR, and it's done by 2 sisters who love to read. I've only listened to the first 1.5 episodes. They only had 4 or 5 out when I first found them, and I think they now have 6 or 7. So if you guys haven't listened to the podcast My Sister's TBR and you like books and you like podcasts, maybe go and check them out. I find them very fun to listen to, and I find that they are very honest in regards to what they read and what they like without actually being disrespectful. So I would highly recommend go and check out their podcast if you guys have not heard of them. All right, next I have a number of movies that I watched this month or rewatched. There are a couple of those. So I'm going to kind of group them together because they kind of fall under that regard. So I have a couple of Disney movies that I watched last month. So I rewatched Into the Woods and Tangled. And I have to say, guys, Tangled is such a masterpiece in and of its own for the graphics and the art style and the coloring and the story and the singing, and oh, it's just so beautiful and is probably still one of my tops, I should say. One of my top Disney princess films that they made. I also watched with my mom Your Place or Mine. I was so intrigued to watch this. I love Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. Definitely very talented actors. And getting to see them act together and kind of play off of each other was just so much fun. And my mom and I really enjoyed the film. I don't know if we'd rewatch it right away, but the storyline is very cute. You definitely kind of get the feeling of where it's going. But if you guys are a fan of Ashton Kutcher, Steve Zahn plays an amazing character. I love Steve Zahn as an actor. He's just hilarious in everything that he does. And then you also have Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher, as I already said. So if you guys want to check this out, definitely take a try. It is a newer film, and I think they really did a good job with it. On Amazon Prime, I watched Perfect Addiction, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, a book to movie adaptation. I've not read the book, but I did watch the film. I was actually kind of disappointed with this, guys. I'm going to be honest. It was not the highlight of what I expected for it. I felt like it dragged on. I just felt there was not a lot of growth and movement taking part for the majority of the film, and it just kind of fell flat for me. I'm so disappointed by this one, and I wanted to share it because I know it is a newer release, and I'm curious, as somebody who hasn't read it, that's my vibe with the story, but for those that have maybe read the book it's based off of or watched it, what did you guys think of it? Because maybe if I hear you guys say it is similar to the book or the book was better, maybe I'll give the book a chance. Maybe I'll rewatch the film. As of right now, though, I'm not really feeling the vibe to do that. And lastly, I rewatched on Netflix After We Collided. So I've only ever watched the first two, so I decided might as well rewatch those before I jump into the third and final fourth film of the series. I only read After. I didn't really click with the story, so I didn't finish the books, but I thought from what I knew of the first book, I did prefer the movie for the first one better than I preferred the book. So I figured I probably could get through the rest of the movies and see what I like. I still really did appreciate the acting and the writing and the directing for the first two. I'm interested to see what I think when I watch the third and fourth film. My mom and I also, only TV show on this list, did a rewatch of Bridgerton season 1. We were hopeful that we could maybe spread out the rewatch so that it would align with us finishing rewatching 1 and 2 when Queen Charlotte came out, but we ended up marathoning through season 1 a lot faster than we wanted to originally. But we did a rewatch, and I really think my mom needs to read The Duke and I. So hopefully I can convince her to either read it or to listen to the audiobook of it with me, because I think the book just holds such a different layer. But I really love the acting and directing that they did in season 1. It was so well done. All right, so now we move on to the last two. This usually is not as long as the first part of this video, but let's update you guys on my goals. So for Side Hustle, we did sell another item. It was just a book that I had put in my to sell pile, and that one went relatively quickly, so that's good. I also ended up writing another day's worth of words for my novel. So again, small wins are still wins in my book. So that's good. I'm almost at the halfway point of the story, which is exciting. My Goodreads goal is 21% complete, and it says I'm 3 books behind. But I will mention that there are some books that I've read that Goodreads doesn't have it listed there, which makes it very difficult because it does give some sense of inaccuracies because I can't count all of them on Goodreads. So although it says I'm behind 3 books, technically I'm not, but Goodreads says I am. I'm on track for my Bible reading. Currently, I'm in 2 Samuel at the end of March. And lastly, for the book club update, we had our book discussion for Caraval, and I did also publish a book discussion video here on YouTube, and we chose our next read, which was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So pretty productive for March when it came to the book club. Moving on to some other things, we officially, yet unofficially, started some work on our basement, which is going to be turned into my library. I'm so excited. It's going to be a very slow process, but I'm okay with that. Little steps are still progress in my book, so we did officially get that started. in the month of March, and I'm excited. Little things just make me very, very excited with regards to this, because then all of my books will have homes and they don't have to be stacked on top of tables or on the floor or on shelves that aren't actually shelves. So I'm very excited for that. I also ended up going out of town for training for the new position that I am in at work, and I came home from that training out of town. All I have to say is I love being home. Guys, it was nice to go out of town for training and not have to worry about that, but there's just something about coming home and being in your own city and in your own home. It's just so comforting, and it was just a big brightener for me at the beginning of March. I also ended up getting an ARC for Jagged Thorns by January James. That was very exciting because I don't typically get ARCs of books, and I do not take that lightly. I'm very appreciative for it, and I feel very blessed in regards to the fact that I was able to read that before it was released and be able to give my honest feedback about the book. Also, it was nice to like it, because the one thing I always struggle with is when I get a book and I don't. Yeah, I've had some bad situations arise where I've had an author give a book and it hasn't been a good one, and they have not reacted very well. So I'm glad that it was one that I liked, and I can't wait for more to be published in this series because it is brilliant. And finally, in the month of March, I actually unhauled my second book for the year, so there's a weight off my shoulders. I don't unhaul a lot of books, but I am a big fan of, if I don't like it, I'm not going to keep it. I like my shelves to be a recommendation all in of themselves, so when someone looks and says, is this good? Obviously it's good because it's on my shelf. So it doesn't matter if it's part of a series or if it's a standalone. I don't like it, it's not staying. So I was pretty stoked that I read it and I was like, nope, I didn't like this, gone. So there you have it. There is my wrap up for the month of March and all of the things. Feel free in the comments down below to share your thoughts on anything that I have shared with you guys, or if you have any questions and I can maybe help clear up some answers or further describe things to you of it if you're looking for that. I look forward to chatting more with you guys. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you then. Bye!